Hey y'all, Jamie here. Proud 54-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off, I apparently dropped dead on the doorstep of my hotel room at the London Lodge on Airline Highway in New Orleans. Damon heard me fall against the door, and he found me there, and I was not responsive. My heart was not beating. I had no pulse. I had no breathing. He picked me up and carried me into our room, placed me on the bed. And luckily, back in those days, when we were in junior high, they taught us CPR. And it had only been a few years since junior high for us. So, he remembered, fortunately. And he brought me back. And I was very shaken up, and I was very scared. And then he wanted to take me to the hospital. And I flat out refused. Absolutely not. I was so scared because New Orleans police were so evil to us, And I was so scared that for being loaded and being under 21 out in the bars, that I would get in legal trouble. I thought I would go to jail or something. We never risked, well, we obviously risked going to jail, but we always tried to avoid the hard risks, And for me, being loaded underage, not underage, at that point, I had turned 18 right around this time. And yeah, he brought me back, and I refused to go to the hospital. And he and I's relationship continued to deteriorate, And I was very grateful that he saved my life, don't get me wrong. I was very grateful that he saved my life. But we just weren't getting along. And Damon was my puppy love. He really was. But I let him go. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. And this time, there was no begging. There was no crawling back. No, none of that. He left and went back to Houston. And I was left single again in New Orleans at 18, freshly 18, barely legal. And I stopped working at the Mile Mai for a bit. I went to work at Papa Joe's again. And Candy Slice she was over at Papa Joe's at this point. And, I worked there with Tracy Lynn and Ashley and, Deli Del Monte. And there was just a bunch of girls there that worked there. Chubby, there was a bunch of girls that worked there in those days. And Lisa was not working there anymore at this point. Lisa Jackson, Bob Jackson's girlfriend. But she was around town. And so was Bob. And one night, I was at the Roundup. I was sitting at the bar. I was having a drink. And somebody tapped me on the shoulder. And I looked over my shoulder, and there was Bob Jackson. Bob Jackson is the most breathtaking man I think I've ever seen in my life. He held a spell over me. And we had been together. I had cheated on Damon with him. He had cheated on Lisa with me. But every time we saw each other, it was just undeniable. There was a chemistry between me and this man that was just undeniable. And whenever you put us in the room together, sparks, just utter sparks. And so him and I started fooling around. Him and Lisa were still together, so yes, he was cheating on her with me. I was being a homewrecker. I'm not proud of that, but I was being a homewrecker. And we were sneaking around. He was coming to see me at the London Lodge, And we were having breakfast at the diner when I discovered that one of his 2 front teeth was actually fake. Like, he took it out to eat breakfast, and I was kind of shocked. And he was like, yeah, I lost one in prison. Oh, okay, yeah. I was so head over heels hooked. You couldn't, even though he went back to Lisa, he did go back to Lisa. And it was just a fooling around with me thing. And I proceeded to go on a rampage of a whole lot of different men in my bed. Not just for money, for fun, to numb myself. I drowned myself in booze, drugs, and dick. And, you know, that was my life for a while. And I remember one night, me and Tracy, Puerto Rican Tracy, she was living in a room upstairs from where I was. And she brought a trick over and she wanted somebody to help her with him. So she invited me upstairs to come see him. And this man didn't know that we were trans. She didn't tell him. And so when she told him, when he found out and she told him, he got so pissed off, he picked up the TV set that was bolted to the floor, by the way. He ripped it out of the bolts to the floor, and he proceeded to carry it out the door as getting his revenge. And was leaving, and Tracy called the office and said, there's a man in my room, and he's stealing the TV set, and he's leaving right now. The manager of the hotel goes out into the parking lot and pulls out like a big old handgun, and he starts acting like Roscoe P. Coltrane from the Dukes of Hazzard and starts shooting at this car in the parking lot. And if you want to know what happened next, honey, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow and I will too. I love you all for watching. I love for the comments, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.